A life-taker was living inside this victim's home for 2 days before anyone knew. The one piece of evidence they ignored for a decade holds a secret that will shock you. The reason they never found her body is more disturbing than you think. Stick until the end to hear the birthday arrest that finally brought justice. On June 10, 2006, 24-year-old Lori Ann Slasinski left her Auburn, Alabama home intending to meet her closest friend, Lindsey Braun's house, for a quiet girls' night. She never arrived. When Lindsey tried calling, no one answered. By Monday, June 12th, alarm bells rang louder. Lori did not appear at her workplace. Something her friends knew was completely out of character. Concern shifted to dread when co-workers checked her trailer. Peanut, her beloved Yorkshire Terrier, was locked in his crate, cared for but abandoned. The front door was ajar, the air conditioner hummed, and household items, her kitchen rugs, a trash can, a phone cord, and a couch pillow were missing. By June 14th, her 1999 Mazda Protégé was discovered in flames on an isolated road near a bowling alley. A gas can was discarded in the woods, but Lori was gone. The inferno had destroyed evidence, and the case turned from a missing person report into a suspected homicide. The timing was devastating. Lori had just graduated from Auburn University with honors in psychology, working at East Alabama Mental Health Center, and preparing to continue for her master's degree. Her family, who had relocated from New York to Alabama when she was a teenager, celebrated her ambition and her kindness. To Arlene and Casey Slasinski, their daughter was the pride of the family, while to her brother Paul, she was a trusted confidant. Lori loved animals, adored her friends, and had a reputation for dependability and warmth. The abrupt disappearance of someone so stable, so connected to her loved ones, could only mean something sinister had taken place. The investigation turned almost immediately to Daryl Richard Rick Ennis, a young man Lori had befriended years earlier at a bowling alley where he worked. He had spent holidays with her family, had grown close enough to be invited to Christmas dinner, and harbored an unrequited affection for her. Lori had confided to Lindsey that Rick had written her a love letter, which she rejected, planning to address it directly with him. On the night of her disappearance, Lindsey heard his voice in the background when speaking to Lori by phone. When questioned, Ennis spun a lie that Lori was involved in illegal substance dealings and might have vanished while selling them. Arlene dismissed the suggestion outright, knowing her daughter would never risk her career and future this way. Investigators searched Lori's trailer for signs of drug activity but found none. They did, however, notice scratches on Ennis's arms. Marks he insisted came from his dog. The lies unraveled further when the depths of Ennis's past came into focus. At age 12, in March 1993, he had unalived his mother and stepfather in Montgomery, Alabama. When stopped by Alabama State Trooper John Clark later that day, Ennis matter-of-factly admitted, "I unalived them." In his backpack, police found knives and ammunition. He confessed he had also planned to unalive his 3 stepsisters. Investigators were horrified to discover that he had attended school for 2 days while living in the home with their bodies. Because of his age, Ennis could not be tried as an adult and was sentenced to only 9 years in juvenile custody before being released back into society. This revelation stunned Lori's family and investigators alike. They now viewed Ennis as a predator whose violence was already proven. Yet with no body and no direct evidence, they could not prosecute. He soon left Auburn and relocated to Huntsville in 2007. His new roommate, Abram Sissons, noticed that Ennis brought rugs and a Galileo thermometer, both eerily similar to items missing from Lori's home. One rug tested positive for Ennis's blood when later recovered, but even this was not enough to secure charges. For years, the case went cold. Arlene never stopped fighting, calling, pushing for answers, and keeping her daughter's story alive. In 2016, a new chapter began when Special Agent Mark Whitaker and Agent J.W. Barnes of Alabama's Cold Case Unit reopened the investigation. Revisiting every scrap of evidence, Barnes stumbled on an envelope that had sat unopened for a decade. The lab results inside revealed Rick Ennis's DNA on Lori's bedsheets and blood on her front door. The crucial connection finally existed. By 2018, Ennis had reinvented himself. Living in Virginia, He was engaged to a school librarian named Alana Atkinson and worked in construction, presenting himself as a reformed man. But on his 38th birthday, August 6th, U.S. Marshals arrested him on 2 counts of capital life-taking. To Lori's family, it was relief tempered by agony. Relief that justice had not been forgotten. Agony because the arrest meant accepting that Lori was never coming home. The trial commenced in April 2022 after years of delays due to COVID-19. Prosecutors presented the DNA evidence, the burned car, the missing items, and testimony from those who had known Ennis. Jeremy Brooks, a co-worker, testified that on June 9, 2006, the night before Lori disappeared, Ennis called him asking for gas and requesting to keep the gas can. Jeremy declined, but the very next day, Lori's car was found burned with a gas can nearby. Another former co-worker, Terry Booth, told the court that Ennis had once said he left Auburn because he had to get rid of a body. At the time, she thought he was joking. In court, the words were damning. The defense struck back by attempting to tarnish Lori's image, portraying her as a secret drug dealer. They argued that Ennis's DNA on her sheets resulted from consensual intimacy, and even suggested evidence might have been planted. But the jury considered his history, his lies, his possession of items from Lori's home, and the mountain of circumstantial and direct evidence tying him to her disappearance. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Rick Ennis was sentenced to life without parole on April 14, 2022. The prosecution had originally pursued the death penalty, but after consultation with Arlene, they agreed to remove it. For her, avoiding decades of appeals meant sparing her family years of reliving the trauma. Life without parole guaranteed he would die behind bars at the William E. Donaldson Correctional Facility in Bessemer, Alabama. The verdict was bittersweet. For Arlene, closure came at the cost of final acceptance that her daughter was gone forever. She admitted that part of her had always held on to hope that Lori might still walk through the door. Now she had to let go. Casey and Paul carried the same grief, knowing justice had been served but Lori's body had never been found. The question of her final resting place lingers unanswered, a torment Ennis has never eased by confession. The story of Lori and Slasinski is one of resilience in the face of horror. It is the story of a young woman whose light was extinguished by a man already marked by violence, of a family who refused to stop searching, and of investigators who refused to let the case stay buried. It is also a chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight, sometimes even welcomed into the warmth of a family's home. 16 years after her disappearance, justice was achieved, but the wound remains open. Lori's name endures as a symbol of both tragedy and perseverance, her memory carried by those who loved her and by those who sought justice on her behalf. Now that the case has been laid bare, what do you think of the justice system's handling of Lori's disappearance? How do you view the sentence given compared to the years her family spent without answers? Do you believe Rick Ennis revealed the full truth, or is he still hiding more? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories.